Good evening to all of you. In this first lecture, that is on Introduction to Geospatial Technology, we will be covering these two aspects of geospatial technology. The first one being remote sensing, and the second one being geographical information system. Since this entire course is programming related, computer programming related, so I will be covering not going into the basic into the core of these two concepts. I will be only covering the overview of remote sensing and GIS. So there are something like what are the various data formats are there, what is a projection system, what are different kinds of analysis that we can perform on top of these two technologies. So these are some of the aspects which I will be covering in this particular session, and how to implement these concepts in programming environment, that will be covered in the subsequent lectures. So to begin with, if we say the content of this lecture are geospatial technology, who are the users and what are the applications of it, definition of remote sensing and GIS, both we will be covering, what are the various data sources and what are data analysis. Also, I will give a small demo on different types of data formats which are used in geospatial domain. So the objective of the session is to make you aware about the data types and processing involved in geoprocessing and visualization on web platform using Python programming language. Now, if we talk about the geospatial technology, so geospatial technology, so basically geo means related to earth. So whenever any information is there to which we add a location information, like some geographical coordinates are attached to a particular information or to a particular attribute, then it becomes a geospatial information. It enables us to acquire location specific data. If we go about the definition, so we can say that geospatial technology enables us to acquire location in specific data about earth and use them for analysis, modeling, simulation and visualization. This is a very basic definition, means you are adding the location information to the data, and once that location information is added to the data, then you have to use it for various purposes. It can be analysis of different kinds. I will tell you about some sorts of analysis which we can do with this location specific data sets. What are the modelings are there? Modelings means reading some historical data, creating some models out of it and then predicting the futures, and simulation and visualization. So all these activities can be carried out with the help of location specific data set. So if we say about the remote sensing it has various kinds of sensors operating in different parts of electromagnetic spectrum at various spatial, temporal and spectral resolution. So remote sensing is the basic definition I will be covering later on, but just to tell it over here, remote sensing is the means observing the things from a distance without being in physical contact with that object. Means observing the things from a distance. The distance can be as far as space. Like the sensors on the satellite, they are established or they are orbiting in the space, and from there we are observing the features of earth, and once those features are observed, then we can analyze those captured features by the sensors. Now there are different if we talk about electromagnetic spectrum, this is also a very important concept in remote sensing. Electromagnetic spectrum means the entire spectrum which is coming from the sun, okay, and which the earth features are receiving. Means there are different wavelength onto which these features receive the energy from the sun, and this energy which they receive, there are three operations on top of it. First is some part of the energy is reflected by the features, some of the energy they absorb, and some of the energy is transmitted also, okay, they pass through them. So the reflected portion of that electromagnetic spectrum is of importance, or is of the is the point of study in case of remote sensing. means sunlight is coming to the features, and some of the sunlight or some of the rays, they are reflecting back. Now this reflection is captured by different kinds of cameras. If I am on the earth surface, I capture a photograph. Our eyes are also actually camera. They act as a camera only. They are receiving the sun's energy reflected from the object, and we are able to see it. Similar thing happens with the camera also. If the camera is able to capture the reflected energy from the feature. Now the cameras which are kept in the satellite, they are known as sensors. Now there are different kinds of sensors. These sensors can capture the energy and convert them into some photographs or the images. Now normal capture, the normal cameras which we use in daily life, they capture the data or the electromagnetic spectrum of visible range. That is like different colors are there. VIBGYOR, you might be knowing it. So that energy they are capturing, and they are generating the picture out of it, an image out of it. Whereas the sensors in the satellite, they are able to capture beyond visible range also, like infrared rays they are able to capture, microwave rays they are able to capture, thermal waves they are able to capture. So these waves are also captured, these wavelengths are captured by the sensors, and they are transformed into an image form through which we can perform different kinds of analysis. So if you will be hearing in this entire lecture different kinds of bands, satellite sensor or the image bands are there. So it can be a infrared band, it can be a red band, green band, blue band, short wave infrared band. So they are different. So when this programming you will be covering in the subsequent lectures, so these terms will be arising. Satellite bands. So what are these bands actually? These bands are nothing but the image or the wavelength from the entire electromagnetic spectrum from which a particular section or a small interval is captured by one sensor, then that becomes one band. There are three sensors. Let us say there are one sensor is able to capture the image in three bands. Like first it is, let us take an example, like from 0.6 micrometer to 0.69 micrometer, or from 0.7 micrometer to 0.8 micrometer. So these kinds of entire wavelength, if they are capturing and they are storing as one band. Okay, so I will say a little bit, one example let us take. From ISRO, we have one satellite called RESOURCESat-1, RESOURCESat-2. This is another satellite. RESOURCESat-3 satellite are there. So they have one typical sensor called LIS-3 sensor on board of that satellite, LIS-3 sensor. Now this LIS-3 sensor is able to capture the data in 4 spectral bands. So there are 4 spectral bands. First is green band, there is a red band, NIR band, near infrared band, and short wave infrared band. We will see one example of that bands also, how they look like, that electromagnetic spectrum captured and how they are converted to the image. Or we can download one small image from internet and then we can see that itself also. I will take you to that example straightforward. Let us go to that example. I will download one small image from, because this will be very important component in your programming part. Let us go to one Bhuvan portal here. There is one geo portal developed by ISRO. Now from here I will take one small satellite data I will download, and we will try to see what are the different kinds of bands we have. So if you see it here, there is a satellite and sensors. So I told you there is one RESOURCESat-1 and 2 satellite is there. It has one sensor called LIS-3. Let us select this LIS-3 data set over here, sensor. Now this LIS-3 sensor has 4 spectral bands. Let us see how the bands looks like. Let us take the data set of let us the Dehradun region. So it will search the city for you, and then we can download that data set. Okay, this is your Dehradun city over here. Now I will take, now here if you see it, the satellite data are not captured like this. In Bhuvan Geo portal we have arranged the data in tile forms, like approximately 25 kilometer by 25 kilometer is one tile. although the sensors or the satellite, they have their own swath, ki how much area they will capture on the surface of the earth in one pass, that is fixed. But for management point of view, what we have done, we have tiled all the images as 20, like this list 3 data set is there as 25 kilometer by 25 kilometer approximately, or 0.25 degree by 0.25 degree if you say it. Okay, so this is one tile here, one satellite data tile. Let us try to download it. Okay, so I will select one interactive drawing from here, select, let us download this particular tile. Okay, it will ask for the login, so let us log in also. So I was thinking to give the demo at the end, but let us start the demo from this point itself. Okay, now here if you say so, once you log in, now I will go to next. I will download any particular tile. One satellite data I am downloading, let us say of 4th January 2018. I can right click here and then I can download. So it will start downloading the data set for me. Now let us see this all we will be doing with the help of programming now. So in the folder here, if you see here, my zip file is available to me in the download folder like this. I will just cut it from here. I will go to some other folder here, and let us make one new folder over here, new folder. I will make here 73rd course. Okay, then here I can just paste it here. Now let us try to extract it here. I will extract the file over here. Okay, now if you see the different bands, so the images which I was talking to you in remote sensing, the different band. This is band number 2, this is band number 3, band number 4, band number 5. What are these bands? What are their wavelengths? That we can directly see from here also. If you talk about the metadata here, so it will show you the detail of that data sets also. We can just select it here, click on metadata. So it will tell you what is this data and what are these bands, from which spectral range these bands have been captured. Now if you see it here, this data is received from linear imaging and self-scanning sensor, that is LIS3, which operates in 3 spectral bands VNIR and 1 band in SWIR band with 24 meter spatial resolution and a swath of 141 kilometer. In one go it can capture the data of 141 kilometers. So now there are different formats here. If you see it, and the other details you can go through in this particular section. Now if you see it here, this is band number 2, this is band number 3, that is red band, band number 4, that is the infrared band, and band number 5, this is the NIR band. So right now you are not able to see it over here. You have to use some specialized software for visualizing these data sets, or we can say some programming language with some specific libraries, geospatial libraries. You can visualize these data set from those tools. Okay, it can be a open source, a proprietary software, or you can have a particular programming code also. You can write a code to read these kinds of images. Then they will be talking about stacking of the layers. We will stack these layers because in Google Earth you might have seen colorful images are there. Some red is the surface is visible as it is. So same way we will convert these images to a color composite. Like red band we will assign some color, green band we will assign some another color for that, NIR we can assign another color for it, SWIR we can assign one more color for it. So these colors can be assigned in such a way that it represents the true surface of the earth from where the data has been taken. Now if we talk about if you see it here, there are different terms also here. Spatial resolution. Spatial resolution means 1 pixel, how much area it is representing. Like LIS3 it is 23 meter, or to be more specific 23.5 meter by 23 by 5 meter is 1 pixel. Means 1 pixel that 23 by 23 meter area on the ground is represented by 1 pixel. So all the features within that area will become one only, as a single feature only. So temporal resolution, if you say about the data set taken at different time period, some data set taken in 2008, image captured in 2018, to image captured in 2016. So they form the temporal resolution of the satellite data. Spectral resolutions, the images can have various kinds of bands. Like list 3 was having 3 spectral bands, or 4 spectral bands to be more specific. We can have images which can have hundreds of spectral bands also, like hyperspectral images. They have hundreds of spectral band images captured through hundreds of spectral bands. So they becomes the spectral resolution. So this was about remote, some image concepts on remote sensing. Similarly, if we talk about GIS, now here spatial data is there. Sometimes how to create that data, how to update that data, how to visualize that data, and how to analyze these data. And this I will be covering here. Satellite navigation is another component in geospatial. Actually, these are the 3 basic components of geospatial technology. We say about remote sensing, we talk about geographic information system, and we also talk about satellite navigation, positioning, time, GPS, Navig, etc. These are the 3rd component of geospatial technology. Now, who uses geospatial technology and for what purpose? For what purpose they are using? Let us take few examples here. Like an urban planner, he might want to access the extent of urban fringe growth in his or her city and quantify the population growth that some suburbs are witnessing. How the city is expanding, he want to explore that thing. So he might also like to understand why these particular suburbs are growing and others are not. So he can draw a certain amount of conclusions from that. So urban planner can use it, geospatial technology, for this particular application. Similarly, a biologist, he can also use it for, he may be interested in the impact of slash and burn practices on populations of amphibian species in a forest of a mountain range to obtain a better understanding of long-term threat to those populations. So, like species, there can be many other other studies also for a biologist. Similarly, a natural hazard analyst, the person who are specialized in natural hazard studies, they might like to identify high risk areas of annual monsoon related flooding by investigating rainfall patterns and terrain characteristics. Now this terrain characteristics, this can also be captured from satellite images in the form of stereo images. Like I will capture the image from 2 angles, and then I overlay these 2 images captured from 2 angles, then it gives me a terrain correct. We can get an, we can say height information also. We can derive height information also from those 2 sets of, from that single set of image captured from 2 angles. So I will take some examples are there for that also. We will see it. So a geological engineer, he might want to identify the best localities for constructing buildings in an earthquake prone area by looking at rock formation characteristics. So spatially he can look into that one, and he can suggest the best places where these buildings can be constructed in an earthquake prone area. Similarly, a mining engineer, he could be interested in determining which prospective copper mines should be selected for further exploration, while taking into account the parameters such as extent, depth, quality of the ore body, amongst others. So these are some of the parameters which there can be n number of parameters which can be studied for this kind of studies. Okay, similarly, a geoinformatics engineer hired by a telecommunication company may want to determine the best site for company's relay station, where to establish that relay station. GIS technology can help you out over there, taking into account various cost factors such as land prices, undulation of the terrain, etc. There are many criteria apart from these 2 criteria also. Now a forest manager might want to optimize the timber production. Timber production, again very important application here. He want to optimize it using the data on soil and current trees and distribution in the presence of number of operational constraints. There can be number of operational constraints such as need to preserve the species diversity in that area. So all these constraints and these criteria, they can be converted into a GIS layer or a geospatial layer. We will talk about how to convert those things that you have to learn in the due course of this subsequently during this course. Similarly, a hydrological engineer, he might want to study a number of water quality parameters of different sites in freshwater lake to improve the understanding of the current disturbances of or type of reed beds and why it differs from that of a decade ago. So we can say the temporal analysis also can be performed if we can make use through this geospatial technology. So these are some of the applications. There are n number of applications which can be done. Now these days the concepts of geofencing is coming up. Sometimes people will be talking about this spatial machine learning also, this concept, IoTs. So these they all have this application of geospatial technologies built in them. So we need now let us talk about something about the basics of remote sensing. Definition, as I told you earlier, it is the basic proper definition. If we talk, it is art, okay, it is also a science, and it is also a technology. So it is all the three things are there inbuilt into the definition of remote sensing. It is art, science, as well as a technology of obtaining information about an object or an area from a distance, typically from aircraft or satellites. Now there are two types of remote sensing again. First is the active remote sensing, other is the passive remote sensing. So if we are taking the direct sun's energy, then it becomes a active, it is a passive remote sensing. Or if our sensors are giving the illuminating the objects from their side itself, then it becomes an active remote sensing. Now if we talk about GIS, it is a computer based system that provides the following four sets of capabilities to handle a georeference data. What are those four things? Data capture and preparation. I can capture the data, that again comes as a part of GIS only. I can manage the data, including the storage and maintenance, data manipulation and analysis, data presentation or the visualization of the data. These are the four basic tasks or the capabilities which a typical GIS handles. And all these data sets are, all these capabilities are location specific. They have location information inbuilt into it. Then it becomes, because these tasks can be performed by any kind of information system. But if we add the location information into it, then it becomes a little bit complex, and GIS is the system which handles these capabilities. Now, what is the fundamental principles of GIS? If we say the fundamental problem that we face in many use of GIS is that understanding phenomena that have a spatial or a geographical dimension as well as temporal dimension. So these two concepts, spatio-temporal problem, these are covered under the basic fundamental principle of GIS. This means that our object of study has different characteristics for different locations, again different locations, and also these characteristics changes over the time. So space as well as time. So GIS comes under this spatio-temporal problems only. If we say geospatial data, so I told you earlier also, it contains both location, that is called the geometry, as well as the characteristics. Now here if we talk about the geometry, so we have a thing called projection system. We talk in GIS. Projection system is like referencing the object with respect to the earth surface, where it is on the earth surface. So that coordinate of the earth surface, because for the entire earth surface we have given a coordinate system. Coordinate systems have been defined. There are different kinds of coordinate system. Like one is very popular that you might have heard, that is latitude and longitude and altitude. So everybody, most of the people are knowing ki, okay, for what are the altitudes or the coordinates or the latitude, longitude, altitude of a particular place. So those from where those are coming, they have been defined as a coordinate system for the entire earth surface. So this is one coordinate system. We call it as a geographical coordinate system. GCS coordinate system. Now there is one international body also, that is called EPSG. So they have defined some EPSG codes also for these projection systems. So when you will be working, you will be doing the programming part of for handling the GIS data, then this term will always come there. What is the EPSG code of a particular projection system? It can be a metric projection system, it can be a like geographic coordinate system. So there are different codes for them. So you should be aware of those codes also. Like for a GCS, that is geographic coordinate system, we have a typical number called 4326, EPSG 4326. So whenever this number comes into your working environment, immediately you should be able to tell that this is a geographical coordinate system. It means the features are identified using latitudes and longitudes, not as a metric system. Metric system उसमें नहीं होगा. Like metric is like UTM coordinate system, that is different. But if we talk about these latitudes and longitude, it is a geographical coordinate system. For that we have that EPSG code 4326. Now we also add another thing is, one was projection system, another thing is attributes also. Now if the things are in the GIS domain, then apart from that attribute, apart from that geometry or the coordinate, it can also have n number of attributes. One example we are seeing it over here. This is one tree that is on the surface of the earth. So where is it? It has one coordinates also, latitudes and longitude, and it has attribute information also, like what is it? It can be a species, what is the type of the species, what is the height, and what is the age of the tree. So we can have n number of attributes stored as into one geometry. Like this is the point location, or I will be talking about point and all those things also. So it can have one geographical coordinate can have n number of attributes attached to it, and we can analyze these attributes for further decision making or any other applications. Let us take components of GIS, only basic things only. So now this GIS, it basically it is composed of there are some methods, and there is a hardware, people are there, data set and software. This is very basic definition. I will not tell much about this thing, but you should know that there are basically 5 components of GIS: method, hardware, software, people and data. This is basically for any kind of information system. This thing is true also. But if the data is geographical reference, then it is a GIS data set. Third, what are the sources of input for the GIS data? From where the data is coming into GIS? Who is giving the data to GIS? Remote sensing is giving data to GIS. Photogrammetry is giving data to GIS. GNSS, like this GPS or Navik, they are also feeding data to GIS. There are many more. Survey hard copy maps are there. ALTM surveys are there. There are some surveying methods through which we can collect GIS data sets. Now if you see it here, how the GIS data or this spatial data is represented. Now basically there are 2 models of data representation in GIS, and both these data models you will be handling through programming. The first is raster data model and the second is the vector data model. So let us cover about this, let us read some more about raster data model. Raster data model, first of all, say it is an area covered with grid, or we can say to a very simple form, a photograph taken by a camera, that is a raster data, or an image captured by a sensor, that is again one raster. Scanning, it also gives me a raster data set. So this is the basic definition, but you have to understand what is at the core of it. At the core of it, suppose I have taken one photograph of this particular place. It is like some name I have given here: corn, fruit, wheat, or some clover, or some fruit again over here. But this is visually available to you. But how the computer is understanding it? Computer is understanding them in the form of a grid. A grid is formed for that, and these grids have specific numbers. Like if you see it here, this corn is represented by number 1 over here. In this grid I am able to see it, and similarly fruit is represented by this number 4. Wheat is represent this again. You see it 4 here again and 4 over here also. Similarly, clover here, it is represented by this number called 3. And so we these if I am representing the features in the form of a grid. Earth's features are represented in the form of the grid. This grid is very of utmost importance in case of this raster data handling. So cells are often called as pixels. So you will be hearing about the word called pixels here. Pixels, nothing but a picture element. One particular grid, this one number is written over here. This is 1 pixel here. Okay, and it can have, how many pixels it have? It have around, if you say it here, 0 to 9, 10 pixel and by 10 pixel here. So there are, if you say lines and columns also, these are the lines, one, second line, third line, and these are the columns. So why I am telling lines and columns? Because these things you will be hearing in more into your programming. Lines and columns, sometimes they will call pixels and columns, pixels and lines, sorry, lines and columns, sometimes pixels and column lines also. This is the pixel and this is second pixel, third pixel, and this is the lines. So these are different kinds of terms which are used in raster data processing. Okay, pixels and lines and rows, there are many terminologies for that one also. Now if you see, the attributes are recorded by assigning each cell a single value. What the thing is here, ki for one cell I have only one attribute, that is the digital number over here. Although I can have a separate table also, that is lookup table, where I can store all these information, like 1 means corn, 2 means wheat. So I can have that way also. I can create one lookup table also for this grid, which will map these digital number with that lookup table. So that can also be done. If you see here, vector data model, so raster was like a grid, pixels were there. But if I am representing the earth surface in the form of a line, point or area or a polygon, then it becomes a vector based GIS data. Okay, so like point, it is XY coordinate and a label. Similarly, line, a series of points, area forming their boundaries. So this is again one polygon over displayed over here. This is the line feature, a point feature. So I am not taking a picture, I am drawing them by hand. And this drawing is, the basic unit of drawing is one point. If I have a linear array of point like this, it becomes a line feature. And if my first point and the last point are same, then it becomes a polygon feature. Okay, so this is about the three features, so line, point and polygon. So basically you should remember, vector data means line, point and polygon. Raster data means a grid or a pixel. The basic entity unit of a raster data set is one pixel. So it has many things associated with it. If we say about here, attribute of a table, similarly like a polygon, it is ID is 1, category 5, shape length, shape area. I can have n number of attributes attached to a particular feature. Represent, like point, it can have n number of features attached to it. Similarly, line can also have n number of features attached to it in a single file itself. Here in this one file I can store it. Now before going further, let us talk this raster data set. Some more thing I will tell you, like how we are storing it, what are the formats. There are many formats, like photographs, so you are taking JPEG, PNG, BMP. These are the photographic formats. But if we talk about GIS data set or the spatial data models, then you talk about GeoTIFF format. So GeoTIFF is a very popular format which stores the geospatial raster data. It is you can say any data set, if you are getting as a GeoTIFF, it means it is a geospatial raster data only. And the another format for vector is a shapefile. So for raster I have a GeoTIFF, for vector I have a shapefile. These two are very popular formats. There are other formats also, although there are many formats. I can store these data sets in a database also, as in the form of a table. But popularly, they GeoTIFF and shapefile, These are two popular formats of geospatial data handling in literature, basically you can say it. Okay, and let us go further here. This attribute I already have told you. Raster and vector data model, what are their differences? If we talk about, location is referenced by a grid, location is represented by a xy coordinate, it is a cell there. Here we have the points, and attributes is represented as a single value, attribute reference through unique ID number of the table. And example, if images from the remote sensing satellite Landsat or ResourceSat, also list 3, which I have shown you earlier also. There are some other format for GIS data. GIS data can be collected, this vector data, it is collected through digitizing. I have one image, I am drawing something on top of it, then it provides me the vector data model, the data in the vector format. If you see it here, some GIS layer, for example, if you say it sensor track, road track, bus routes, shopping centers, industrial site. So we talk about GIS layers also. These data sets are covered as different layers, and these layers can be combined together to form any kind of decision analysis. Now, how to prepare this data? If you say a direct spatial data capture method, indirect spatial data capture method, direct preparations is there, and combination from multiple sources. If you see a direct spatial data, I can do one survey like GPS survey or the GNSS survey. From there I can collect the data. I can do field surveying through photogrammetry, through remote sensing. These are some of the direct spatial data capture methods. And indirect spatial data capture methods, there are some available data set. Already some maps are there. I am drawing it. I am drawing on top of it. And some data sets are available on internet. From there also I can download the data. Now these are some of the operations which are done on top of a vector data. Like if you see it here, you before using any data, it need to be cleaned up. If you see it here, there is one gap is there, so we have to remove it. We have to clean the data for erase the duplicate or the sliver lines from there between. And if you see it here, is not touching here, clean up. After cleaning, you need to extend the undershoot. These are some terms like undershoot, sliver polygons, the erase the short objects, snap the clustered nodes. These nodes are there. I need one node only, so that is again break the cross junctions. Similarly, the dissolve the polygons. If you see dissolving, again important concept here. 1, 2 and 2. So I have polygons like this is also 2 and this is also 2. So why I need 2 polygons? I can dissolve them. So it will give me one single polygon. So 1 and 2. So these kinds of cleanings are required before performing any kind of GIS analysis. Again, something if you see it here, this kind of polygons are there. These need to be cleaned up like spaghetti data. Similarly here, the data can be in different kinds of polygons, but we need the topology also. What is rest onto the left of B or onto the left of A is D. So this left and right information. So this becomes the how the polygons are connected with each other. So that forms the basic of the topology. Now if we say about the raster data, some sorts of analysis which we perform. So vector based analysis, it can be a map overlay. There are different kinds of functions in case of raster: local, focal, zonal, global, point in polygon, line in polygon, point in polygon, polygon in polygon, and then map. In case of raster we have map algebra, Boolean, relational, arithmetic, mathematical, logarithmic, arithmetic, trigonometric powers. Similarly, map manipulation, we have dissolve, clip. Clip means cutting a part of a vector, append, eliminate, update, erase. Proximity analysis, this is again important here, like buffer, multiple ring buffer, point distance. So proximity means nearness, what are near to my, and suppose I have one road and I want to do the analysis the features which are within 100 meter of a road, within 100 meter of road. What is that within? Within is buffer only. One road is there. If I am saying 100 meter within the road, then that 100 meter is the buffer of that road. Hospital, what is the service area of the hospital? Point, we will say 500 meters along that hospital, it will serve the people who are living in the 500 meters of that particular point. So that is again one buffer of it. So these words are used in your programming also. Pattern analysis, nearest neighbor analysis, spatial autocorrelation, network analysis, shortest route. So these are some of the vector based analysis. Similarly, For raster, we have like hydrological analysis, flow direction, flow accumulation, stream, reclassification, terrain analysis, contour mapping, slope, aspect, how to generate contour from a raster data set. So these are some of the things. If you see it here, for example, we are seeing over here map A and map B. If I am doing an overlay of them, so you see it here, C1, yeah, this is a new map now, which is this polygon. These two maps are joined together, and I am getting the geometry is altered, the geometry is changed. So these all we need to take care. Now this will only happen if these two data sets are geo-referenced with each other also. They have the same projection system. If they are two JPEG image, it is difficult to perform such kind of analysis from the programming point of view. But if they are having the same projection system, like both are GCS or both are UTM, then we can easily do such kind of operations from these kind of data sets. One example, let us say overlay operation of raster data set. Now I have one map A, I have one map B. It can be anything. It can be a land use forest map, it can be land use map, or map B, it can be a slope map, it can be anything. So I can perform the operation like I want to add the value 10 to all the pixels over here. So it is creating this map C. This is one map algebra. Map C equal to map A plus map B. These two I want to add. And map C I want to map A minus map B divided by map A plus map B. So this kind of data set I can obtain. If we talk physically over here, if you see a land use map, in land use map I want only the forest, and from the slope map I want only the steepest slope. So I want to add them together. So these features will have the features called forest in the steepest slope. So this kind of analysis can be performed. Okay. Now if you say terrain visualization can be done, if I have the 3D data, I told you earlier also stereo data, from that I can create a height map, that is sometimes also called as digital elevation model. Raster vector model was there, but there is one more thing that is called digital elevation model. This is that is the elevation data or the height map of a particular area. It can be done. We can create this kinds of visualization from this height map. I can derive some more parameters of the terrain like slope map, aspect map, curvature. There are many things that can be derived from this height map also. Even the water bodies also I can derive from it. All the drainage we can derive. We can also derive water set boundaries from this height map directly. Automatically we can derive it. So if you see it here, slope, the measure the rate of change of elevation at a given surface location. What is the direction of the slope? That is called aspect. Surface curvature, break in slope analysis. We can perform water set, catchment, hydrological analysis, flow direction, flow accumulation, stream order, water set boundaries. These all can be performed automatically. If you are expert in algorithms of these concepts, then you can directly implement these things with the help of any programming language like Python. You can use it. Terrain analysis is like slope map we have taken. This is just some aspect map, and this is one curvature map. These all can be derived from DEM. I have one DEM, and these parameters I am deriving, writing a small code. That code can be written in Python or in any other programming language. But Python is a more popular language, so we can easily write 2-3 lines of code and we can generate this kind of maps also. Why 2-3 lines of code? Because so it is very complex there. We can use certain libraries also. There are already some people have written the code and they have published those code as a library. So I can use those libraries and directly import it to my code and use it for my application. Like slope का code already किसने बना दिया, that I can make use. Geospatial analysis using GIS. If you see it here, integrated geospatial analysis. This is your soil map is there, water resources is there, depth to water table again one layer is there, land use map is there, cadastre is there. So I can combine all these three things and create one integrated development plan can be generated. One example, if you say it here, groundwater prospect zoning can be done. If you see it here, one complete methodology is there, concept is there, there are different factors, different criterias are there. They can be combined, integrated together to identification of zones for groundwater occurrences, also identification of location, priority zone for constructing the recharge structures. So these can be combined together and these maps can be performed. Like groundwater prospect map I can create by combining different kinds of GIS layers. Modeling landslide hazard and risk, this is another application. Now these are some of the different layers, around 15 layers have been used and this particular map was created. So if you see it here, the questions are very simple. Simple additive weighing. You assign weight to all these layers and once weights are assigned, you multiply weight by the values behind these layers and then simply add them. So whichever value is the highest value, whichever pixel or whichever location will be having the highest value, that becomes your point of importance over here. So if you see it here, this again same map has been created from that concept only. Simple additive weighing. There are other methods also which can be used. Now how there's after some example, there are some proprietary softwares also for GIS, like ArcGIS. It is basically for the vector data handling. Similarly, Leica Geosystems or the ARDAS, this is for vector, for raster data handling. Basically, primarily for that one. GeoMedia again for vector, Geomatica again for raster data. IGIS developed by ISRO. It is integrated both raster and data. Map info, spans or PA maps. So there are some open source also, Elvis, GRASS, QGIS, GRASS, PostGIS and Map Server. But they all have most of the functionalities are inbuilt into it. But if you want to customize it, you have developed your own algorithm that is unique, that is an innovative idea you have, then that how to implement that idea. Although these languages, these softwares, they have the programming support also. Means you can write a small, like let us say QGIS. QGIS is an open source software, but it also allows you to modify the code, or you can write your own code for any function which is directly not available over there, or you want to automate a particular workflow. For automating that workflow, you can write your own code in Python, because these all softwares are very generic. They will give you all the features, but if you want to automate or you want to write your own algorithms, you implement your own algorithm, at that time you require some programming background or some programming concept need to be known. If you are having some knowledge of programming, then you can easily implement the ideas which is innovative, which is a very innovative any idea which you think this is not available in these softwares. So that can be done. So that's why a programming background is always recommended, or it is always desired by various companies or various organizations who are working in any kind of geospatial or any kind of domain. If you see the changing emphasis from earlier in the past, most of the effort used to go on the data conversion. Then 10% was attribute tagging, and then 5% spatial analysis. Now from data to analysis, the present to the future, currently I have a amount of data is directly available over the internet, and I need to focus more towards analysis of the data. In the coming lectures also you will be seeing that you are able to download the data directly. You need not to capture the data. You download the data from the internet. Sometimes analysis ready data is also available. Now new concept have come that is called analysis ready data. So that once the data is there with you, directly perform the analysis on top of it. Some resources over here, GIS data resources like satellite image, one we have already downloaded initially from Bhuvan Geo portal. You can have 3D visualization, 2D visualization. From Noida you can download. Important point over here, Bhuvan also allow you to not only to download the data, but you can use the data as a service also from this particular portal. No need of downloading the data. You just take the URL from this Bhuvan Geo portal and utilize it for your application. So this facility is available, data, physical data as well as data as a service. Both the things are available under this particular platform. Similarly, we have land and water. Bhu Sampada portal is there. India Varis BIS portal is there. And NRMS portal are. So there are list of portals are there. This I will be sharing with you. You can get a n number of data sets from here that can be downloaded directly. You can download them. You can use them as a service, and then for your various kinds of applications. So, if we talk about some of this, already I have told you popular data formats in geospatial domain which you will be handling, like GeoTIFF, NetCDF, HDF, IMG, and more. So these are the very popular data sets which are often talked about in the geospatial domain for raster data handling. Whereas for vector data handling, we have save files are there, well known text WKT format are there, KML is there, GeoJSON is there. So there are many formats, but these are the four basic or very popular data types for vector data handling. Similarly, for raster data handling, GeoTIFF, NetCDF, SDF, and IMG. Now let me. I already GeoTIFF. So already I have told you there. A small demo I will give you over here. If you see it here, this particular data set, this is nothing but a raster data set. Okay, but now if you go to this part here again, I will go to this Bhuvan Geo portal. I will create one vector data also for you. Let us say this is the 2D Bhuvan. Now here let us create a vector data. So for creating the vector data, what you need to do, let us go to the satellite here. I will remove all these roads from here because I want to create some data from this portal. Here let us zoom to a particular city. Let's say here, let us go to this city is Dehradun city. Now let us say further zoom it, and we can zoom it further here. Now let us zoom it further. This some institute is visible over here. This is nothing but IRS only. Let us try to have a boundary of this particular institute. So we can create the vector data like this here, vector draw tool. So I can have it here, if you see it here, line, polygon, and point. So since it is a boundary, so I will create the boundary. So we can create the boundary for this. Okay, double click it, boundary is complete. Let us do little bit of editing also here. Let us move it to this point here. Let us move it to this point. So we will move it here. Only one sample I am giving you. This is not a digitizing lecture actually, only an overview. So just making it a little bit clean. So cleaning of the data is also necessary. So okay, so the data is done here, created. Now let us download it. This one arrow is over here, yellow. You can download it. You can add some attribute to it. Here let us say, like I am adding one attribute to it. Let us say IIRS, and another attribute is institute, INSTITUT, institute boundary. I will say it, BOUNDARY. This is another attribute. One is at IRS. Another thing, what is it? It is a boundary. Let us create it. If you vector data, I am showing you one simple save file which you will be using. Download it here. Raster data already we have downloaded, and now vector data downloading. If you see it here, vector data is downloaded for me. You can create it, you can download it here. Let us say Control X, cut from here. I will go to the 73rd course folder we have created here. Where's that folder? 73rd course. Then I will paste it here. If you see it here, right click here. Now unzip it, extract here. So it will download this. If you see it here, the save file, once we were talking about the vector raster data. So here I have the data in the form of bands. One band is in data itself. This is one data, this is another data, third, fourth data. But in case of a vector save file, I have four files, and all these four files are very important. These are, they are all, they are as a whole, they are representing one boundary. Okay, so if you see it here, SHX, this is the index file. It will maintain the indexing of all the points which I have drawn to get that polygon. Save file, this is the front file, the main interface file, which will be used for accessing the data. PRJ, it is having the projection information. This we can directly open in any kind of notepad. Let us open it in notepad. If you say it here, open with more apps, I can directly open this file in notepad. If you see it here, the projection system of is GEOGCS. It is a geographical coordinate system, has been assigned to that polygon, and there are some other information also attached like datum, spheroid. These are the things which are a part of the projection system. Third is the DBF. This is the attribute information which we had given, like IRS and building. Two attributes we have given it. So those two attributes are stored in this particular DBF file. So only this is a ASCII file, others are all binary file. You cannot open them directly. Either you need some software, or you require a particular code for reading these data set, and this will be the main interface file. So this is the save file. So this you will be handling. So what one data set I had created from here. Similarly, you can download these vector data from, there are different sources like OpenStreetMap is one popular download source from where you can download a lots of vector data set. Natural Earth, another web portal from which allows you to download again the vector, not only vector but some sorts of raster data sets also. USGS Earth Explorer, that is the portal for which allows you to download more satellite data sets. Now from here, from Bhuvan, we are able to download list 3 satellite data. From Earth Explorer, we can download some US satellite sensor data sets also. So there are many sources. There is no dearth of any kind of satellite data or vector data or the raster data over the internet. You directly download them, use them for learning purpose, for any application development, or for any kind of decision making. You can use these kinds of data sets. So with this, I think I have covered the basic of this remote sensing and GIS, different kinds of data sets. Something I have talked about the projection systems also, and we have talked about the data formats also. So I hope I am able to do justice to this session, and this will this might have built the basics of this geospatial domain into your mind, and you will be able to utilize it for the subsequent programming sessions. Thank you very much.